Coming up this week on the Just Lifestyle Show, catching up with Garry for a final show of 2024. Lots to catch up on, things we've liked from things we've bought this year that are good. Garry gives us some EV news, I've got some synth news, and lots more. So let's get straight to Garry. Garry, good evening.
Good evening, Ian. You're looking very festive.
And it's our last show, Christmas show. So there you go. This is... else. I don't think I'm going to get to wear this very often.
It's a long time since we've seen each other.
Yes.
You've been busy doing interviews. Really good one last week. I really enjoyed last week's show.
Yes, it was great fun. Yes, we have had a few weeks. Since we've done one of these. Yeah, Matt Thomas was great. Was great to talk about Genesis and the way he creates his sounds and everything else. So I thought that was great fun. So it's just a shame I can't nip over and have a look at one of his shows. But great admiration of his technical skills and certainly his playing, because it's not an easy tribute band to go. I mean, these tribute bands they're all good that you see, aren't they? But that Genesis is a particularly technical one. I think if you're doing like if I was doing one, I'd do a nice simple one, but that is definitely not a simple one. So yeah, we've had a couple of good ones on, and we've got a few more in that vein in 2025 as well. But this is our last show of the year, in fact, because I didn't think we'd want to record on Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve, to be honest. As much as I love doing these shows, I think probably by New Year's Eve at this time anyway, it's probably not the best.
Probably not the best. Not the best.
Yeah, but of course it's busy in your household as well. Christmas is a busy time when you've got kids and lots going on there, isn't there? And it won't get any quieter for some years yet, I suspect. We don't have that. 22, that my lads aren't into that quite. Not as much excitement around than there was a few years ago. But so I wanted to use this last show to sort of catch up on a few things since we last talked, and a few of our sort of highlights of 2024. I don't know if I'll make it through the show with this jumper on all the way through, because it is rather warm. So we'll see. It's not as warm as the other one though. The Windows Paint one, that's really thick. So. Anyway, we'll see. I might I might bail on it at some point. So we've been a while since we talked. So I wonder what have you been up to?
Busy working, lots of stuff. Tech side, I haven't done an awful lot. Been playing with Christmas lights. I've got Govey sent me a laser projector light, which is quite interesting.
Oh yes, yeah.
So I'm not sure it's worth the money. It's 100 and something quid. I think it's what you can do with it is a little bit limited. It's got some nice patterns and things like that. It does all the sort of the colours, the laser. You don't use like swirling lights and aurora type effects, and then you can do some overlays of sort of things like pictures of Santa Claus and Christmas trees and that, but they're very limited, and you can't change those. I think they're built into the actual device. You don't seem to be able to change those on the app or upload your own images, which would be nice. It'd be nice if you could do something a bit more clever with it. That's the other thing I found is placement's quite tricky. The cable's very short, but if it's what you want, and it will cover the whole house in illuminations. And my daughters love it, so I guess that's a pro for it. So yeah. Quite good, but I basically had to build my own extension cable, because they don't actually seem to sell in the UK the extension cable for it. So although it comes with quite a long cable, it's not long enough for real placement, because you would need it a fair degree away from the house to actually make it workable.
You've got to project it up, yeah.
So, but it's a good effect. It looks good. So that's good. What else have I done? I went to the launch of GridServe in Stevenage. On the EV side of things, that was good.
Oh yeah,
the latest GridServe hub. So this is yet another one of the electric forecourts, slightly different design to the previous ones. They've sort of restructured the company, concentrating on the electric charging now. So this hasn't got a lot of the stuff which was built around the car hire part of the business, or the car contract hire part of the business. So that doesn't have a lift to take cars up. But it's a nice layout. It's very clean. It's quite interesting in that it's got an Amazon Fresh store in it. One of these ones where you walk in and pick things up and walk out. And it's got all millions of cameras watching you as you walk around the building.
Oh,
And
right, yeah.
so when you go in, it takes a small charge up front, and then as you walk out, it refunds you what you haven't spent. It seemed to work quite well. I've used it a couple of times to pick things up. Very well stocked store, but yeah, it's good. It's a good arrangement, and it's a great location, just off the Nebworth House Junction for near Stevenage, which is perfect for a lot of travel. A lot of travelling I do down the A1 towards London. That's a perfect stopping off point.
Yeah.
So very convenient. Probably the most convenient of all the electric forecourts. And the next one they're building is up at Markham Moor, which is maybe quite convenient for you when you finally get an electric car coming down. Although I see you're getting one of the biggest charging setups in the country at Trafford Park. It's going to be.
Oh, is it right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to Trafford Centre. It's going to be
the Trafford Centre. Yeah.
Trafford Centre. Yeah. I don't remember how many it is, but it's huge. So let's see if I can find the article while we're talking. But yeah, it's going to be massive.
Well, it's yeah. I mean, it's a massive car park, and they recently launched premium parking actually there as well. So
yeah,
but yeah, I can imagine it being a great spot for a lot of for EV charging.
47 electric vehicle chargers going in.
Right. And will they be rapid charge, or were they designed so
they're ultra rapids? No, they're all ultra rapids, so they're actual. Which is a lot of power, to be honest.
Yeah.
47 ultra charge. That's a lot of power going in there.
Yeah. And
it's going to be near the Marks and Spencer's mega store.
Oh, right, that's at the top end, yeah. So that's the big, but it is a big car park up there. But they also get a long. People there quite a long time. So I suppose it's a mixture. It's it's one of the big shopping centres, isn't it? So you'll get some people go for an hour and just top up, but then you get some people that go for a few hours. But I suppose you've got 47. It makes it incentive to go if you've got an EV and it's easy charging.
Yeah. So it's going to have 47 ultra rapid chargers, making the total at the centre 65, and they're all going to be 250 kilowatt chargers. So that's a lot of power.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's just right down the road from where I work, actually. So
yeah, it's very convenient for you.
Yeah, but it will. I mean, it is such a massive place, and it draws people in from all over. So especially this time of year, it's a place best avoided, I find. But I think for people going charging there, that would make a lot of sense. I was down at Oxford Services the other day, and I saw the GridServe ones there. So it's the first time I'd seen them. I've not been to Oxford for a while, and they're all lined up there at the front as well. So yeah, these chargers are more prevalent now, aren't they? That they really are everywhere now when you're out and about.
And everybody's looking for an EV. This is probably the time of year to buy one, or at least contract hire one. There's some incredible contract hire deals going on at the moment. Primarily because the companies are all trying to get their EVs out there to meet the quota deadline. I've seen some of the Volkswagen things like the IQ the 7, which is the ID7, not IQ, ID7, which is the top of the range one, which usually goes for about £800 a month, going for 190 a month. So it's sort of incredible discounts on it. I mean, they're all a couple of year deals, and you obviously don't own the car at the end of it, but it's still pretty impressive to see that sort of level of vehicles coming through.
Actually, I was going to ask you about while we're on the EVs. Since we last talked, you mentioned that Jaguar were going through some potential changes, and I think we haven't talked about. So they had a complete relaunch, and then they're EV only now, aren't they?
They are, and they said they were going to do that anyway, and they basically stopped selling other vehicles. Although they did sell the F-Pace for a while just to keep things ticking over. But a lot of the dealers have been scheduled as well, so they're no longer around. So yeah, it's definitely interesting what's going on in that world. I mean, they launched their Model O, which is quite an interesting beast. I mean, it's definitely drew comparisons with some other vehicles like Someone was expecting Parker to be driving Lady Penelope.
Yeah, yeah.
It's done exactly what they needed it to do. It has got a lot of interest. So I think that's people have been really looking at it, which talking about it, which is it's definitely what they wanted. As they haven't got any cars to sell for a year or so, they need to keep in the news. So yeah, it's quite an interesting world.
So, so have they gone to sort of like a niche brand now then, almost from from where
Yeah,
they were a
and
few years ago?
they said they want to compete with the Bentleys of this world. So going back to their roots of being a luxury car maker, because Jaguar was when it first came out, it was a very low volume luxury car maker, and I think that's what they're trying to get to look back at and try and replicate. And it may be the only way they can actually survive is by attracting a certain level of expend on a car. So, I mean, these are going to be 100 grand plus cars, 150 probably, for the base models of them. So they're not going to be cheap, and they're aiming for a certain type of market with that aspirational market. So, but it probably would do them good. I mean, I think in some ways, I think one of the Achilles heels of the Jaguar fleet has been its servicing and maintenance. And I mean, certainly my experience when I had the I-Pace was that the dealer servicing wasn't as good as the servicing that Jaguar themselves would supply if they sent somebody out to look at your car. Maybe on smaller volumes they can do more of that, and certainly they're looking at a certain much smaller dealer network. So we'll see. I mean, obviously the proof will be in the pudding when they actually get out,
Yeah.
the actual real vehicle out. And I mean, it's all they've shown so far is a concept. Although I'm told the concept is pretty close to reality, but it's huge. It's massive. It's very long, 5 meters or so, and it's a two-seater, which seems crazy, and then huge bonnet. And no details at the moment if you've got luggage space under the bonnet or if it's actually got stuff under there. So lots of things to be learned about it when they finally get around to it. But we'll see.
It's full of AAA batteries.
Yes, I could do it.
Yeah, but yeah, it seems fun, isn't it? Because they I can understand why they would want to kind of do rebrand, because they were seen as kind of a bit, they had a bit of an old-fashioned. They tried it with the F-Pace and stuff, but yeah, they did kind of have that old-fashioned. Maybe we think of like XTR sixes and those kind of thing. But when early days, they weren't they were Le Mans and in the 50s, weren't they? And then even in the 80s, they had the massive success at launch. So they were an exciting brand for various points.
And I think they were exciting when they brought the I-Pace out as well. That was one of the first real competitors to Tesla. In what it had, and I love driving my I-Pace, but it's a car which needed to move on a bit with the times and didn't, and they didn't put the investment into it. I think otherwise they probably could have still had a winner in that, but it'll be interesting to see what they come up with.
Well, I suppose that's the thing with EVs, as we mentioned before, because things change so quickly. You can't the lead time on the car in the car industry used to be massive, didn't it? Between model revisions, and over time that's getting more like tech revisions where things are shrinking down, aren't they? And it's all about shared platforms now and that kind of thing, isn't it? And I suppose that's something that they've perhaps weren't able to do the same with the volume car. So yeah, if you can't, so perhaps that's why they've done it. They've gone for a different route. Yeah, you're not going to be able to compete with Hyundai or Tesla or even the big German companies now. So it's a shame though, because they were always a luxury brand, but they were always a kind of affordable luxury brand, weren't they? They weren't out of reach luxury brands like a Bentley or an Aston Martin. They were always the everyman's luxury almost to a degree. But yeah, interesting to see how that changed. But I know they had a lot of press about the launch or the rebrand but they got a lot of people talking, so I guess it did the job.
Yeah, because it did exactly what they wanted it to do. So
yeah. So any other talk about EV news. There was one other thing, wasn't there? The government was rolled back in some of the requirements for whenever is it 2030?
They haven't actually announced what they're doing. They said they're reviewing it. Now, from my understanding from my contacts is that they won't actually change much. They'll just basically allow the manufacturers to push it back a little bit in the thing, but they still got to meet that target of 2030. So they may be sort of looking at incentives to try and improve sales of electric EVs, but not punish them quite so much up front. I don't know if it'll work like that. I don't know how. I mean, obviously, at the moment, the companies are all assuming they're still being charged the same penalties, so they're all trying to get rid of their EVs at the moment. But yeah, it's. I mean, the thing is, EVs are actually really selling really well. It's just the whole market has collapsed. It's not. They keep talking about it being the EVs causing the problems, but actually, that's not the case. Vehicles have just generally passenger vehicle sales have collapsed in the newer passenger vehicles that have collapsed since the pandemic, and a lot of that's down to cost. If you look at the cost of an average family car pre-pandemic compared to now, I think I can't remember exactly the figures, but it was something like £24,000 pre-pandemic and nearly £40,000 now, which is a huge jump up and way beyond what most people could afford, especially with the economy being compressed. So there's been a huge fall off in normal sales of all vehicles. So that's a problem. The percentage of electric vehicles is actually probably on target for where people thought it would be about by now. It's just that it's not. It's a percentage of a smaller market. What is interesting is that the collapse in the EV used car prices has put them on equivalent to petrol and diesel used cars prices. So people are now buying a lot more EVs secondhand, and in actual fact, they're well and truly selling petrol and diesel cars on the secondhand market at the moment. So it's an interesting world we're living in, and to some extent that was always going to happen because we knew that once the lease cars came off the business contract hire, that was always going to start flooding the market with EVs, and the cost of EVs was overinflated by the manufacturers. I mean, there was a cost difference when they first came out because batteries were expensive. But for the last 2-3 years, really, we should not have had any price differential between a petrol car and a battery electric vehicle because the BEV actually is probably cheaper to manufacture now than the petrol car is, especially a hybrid petrol car. It should be definitely cheaper than a hybrid. So it's a bit of a market correction that's happened over the last few years. But I can see why the manufacturers are screaming about it because they're getting punished and they can't sell the cars. So I think we just need to, and part of that is because the government took a lot of the incentives away for car, and also then electricity costs shot up, so made charging on the road a lot more expensive than it had been. So it's going to be interesting to see, but I'll be interested to see what comes out next year. There's some really nice EVs coming out next year, so it'll be interesting to see what actually sparks interest. You'll be able to get an electric Ferrari next year if you really want.
Yeah. Is it all electric?
Yes, an all electric one.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll maybe that'll be the time for me to switch then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be the time.
Yeah.
And that's where all the shows that you've been to, like the what they call now? What's the electric car show that
Everything Electric?
Everything Electric. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, they're good shows to go to, aren't they? To sort of find out what's going on there.
Yeah.
So that's really been your sort of the tech thing that's kept you going then this year, hasn't it? I would say then, hasn't it?
Yeah, the EV stuff has really been exciting. I mean, other than we've obviously talked about the stuff I've been doing with the little devices. So I've stacked devices, which has been great fun. I've been doing a lot of automation. I think I talked about the weight thing and also the SP presence thing. That is just brilliant. The fact it detects I'm in this room all the time, just by reading the Bluetooth tag I've got on me. So all I need to do is have that little M5 stack device plugged in in power in here, and it just picks it up, and it uses so little power to keep going. It's crazy. and it just works. Pushes it out on the over the MQTT. So it's just one of these things. Wi-Fi stack device, very tiny little £7 device, and yeah, USB powered and everything. So it works really well, and very easy to flash it the ES Presence thing, and if you use Home Assistant, it's just all built in, so it's really nice. I mean, I use Smart Things, but I've managed to get that working with Smart Things as well using MQTT. So it's just working, and it works exceptionally well. So yeah, I'm pleased with that. It's doing what I wanted to do. So I can control things. I mean, if it was early in the day, my Christmas lights would be coming on because I'm in the mood. But yeah, and that's all based on my presence sensing. So it's very good.
I've got my Christmas lights up, my twinkly Christmas lights, which are really great. I had those are the ones I had last year.
Yeah.
So but I do have those. So I've got the outside ones, I've got tree ones, and I've got two sets of outside ones that I've managed to merge. So I've got my playlist running, and there is so many different effects that you can apply to it, and then you put these playlists on. But I do like how you can combine. So I've got the C9 bulb type ones and the icicles, but you put them. But when you do the mapping, you can join them, so it knows where they all are, so you can create a proper map. And the same with like the Christmas tree. There you can see my Christmas tree layout. It's just from, I've done the 3D mapping of it, so it knows exactly where they are. So yeah, I've had them a couple of years now, but I do like those. I think they're pretty good, and they've been really nice and reliable as well. Just worked really well. So yeah, I've been quite impressed with that. Okay, so any other tech things that you've been playing with in the last few months?
Nothing really spectacularly interesting. I had a few bits of headphones and things. I got a nice, quite a nice Christmas present. Actually, he won't be listening to this. I can say what it is for my great nephew. So I got a camera which is actually like a night vision infrared set of binoculars. It's quite impressive actually. It works really, really well. I mean, it's just a little bit bright in front of you, but the quality of the image for something which is very low cost is incredible. And you think how that technology is moving on.
Yeah.
I was watching out in the garden that the foxes playing in the garden the other night with it, and it's the quality of the video really, really good. So that was quite impressive. Can't think of anything else I picked up. I did try to get one thing, which is again really cheap off one of the Chinese websites, but actually really good. Sleep headphones. So these are in-ear wireless headphones, but they're really interesting shape. I've never actually seen anything quite like them in terms of shape. They're like it's hard to explain what they look like. They look like a bean, but slightly bent.
Right, so a bit like the Samsung ones, but
much thinner and much smaller.
Yeah.
Much smaller than Samsung.
Yeah, because the Samsung ones are like these type of ones.
Like that, but much thinner.
Yeah,
much thinner than that. And they do sit in your ear really, really well. And because they are so skinny, I was not expecting any sort of quality out of them at all. I thought it'd be really tinny, but they're actually quite good. I mean, not audiophile quality, but for listening to books or audio books while you sleep or something, or while you're lying down.
because you couldn't lie down in those Samsung ones. They're too.
No, because they stick out. These don't. They don't actually protrude outside your ear, so they work really, really well for that. So I was quite impressed with those. I think they're good little things. So that was quite impressive to get at that. Yeah, not cheap shopping this year. Yeah, not doing.
No.
Excuse me.
Well, I've got something new. I can get the camera to reach around here. But yeah, no, I don't know.
Your music equipment.
Yeah, so there we go. So that is the new Korg Multi Poly.
Oh,
nice. Yeah, it's got nice wooden end cheeks on there as well. But yeah, this is another one of those Raspberry Pi powered synths. So it's actually got a Raspberry Pi 4, I think, compute module in there. But it's got all the real-time controls on there. It's a very impressive synth. So it's kind of channeling what was the Monopoly, the 1980 synthesizer that Korg had, which that one was. It was in those days where synthesizers, polyphonic was too expensive, really. So what the Korg did, they made a 4 oscillator mono synth that you could kind of turn into a polysynth and play 4 notes at once, but then each oscillator played. So you could, it's actually quite interesting because you could make different sounds of those 4 oscillators and play them in chords, and it would all sound very strange. But it shared filters and things like that, so it's become quite a popular synth. So they've kind of took that inspiration, but this is a analog modeling synth. So it's got some interesting things like it does component modeling variation. So of course, a proper analog, traditional analog synth, a 91 from the 70s or 80s, use analog circuitry. So not each oscillator and each envelope and all these parts are not all identical. They're not like on a digital synth, say like the DX7, where every DX7 sounds 100% identical because it's digital. Analog synths have got chips and have got resistors and capacitors and things like that in them, and in circuits, like on board chips on them. But they use analog technology. So when you get these kind of warmer sound, just like we talk about warm sounds for vinyl as opposed to digital of a CD. But it means that the envelopes might not always be the same every time, and they've built that into the circuitry, so you can apply an amount of analog modeling. So it's like a randomness to all the various elements of it. But more than that, it's got 4 oscillators and 4 layers. So you can have. So one layer can you have 4 simultaneous polyphonic sounds and you've got all these, and you can do traditional analog synth modeling, so like an old analog synth. You can do wavetable, which is sort of that 80s digital sound, and you can do wave folding, which is a new thing to me, but it's goes to sort of West Coast synthesis back to the 60s, 70s. And then there's the filters. They've modeled different manufacturers and different types of filters. So you can have a filter like a Moog, or you can have a filter like a Prophet 5, or one like an MS-20. So then you can start to build these up. So you've got 4 of those, and then you've got 4 layers of those. So you can really stack up these rich, complex sound, and there's sequence in it and everything else, and built-in effects. So it's a sort of sound designer's dream. So that's why I got it, because I've done a lot with the sound down the sound packs and ModWave, and it takes it to a whole nother level. So I only got it last week, so I'm just starting to learn it. But it's a really interesting synth, and we've had the designer Dan Phillips from Korg on it on the show, and he's going to come on in the new year and actually talk about the synth. But also one of the sound designers that we talked to on the show a few weeks ago, Pete Swartz, the Ski Jam guy. He did a lot of the sounds for that as well. So it's a really interesting synth. So I've just started it, and just started to get to play it, get to know it. But you can create some really complex sounds on there, and it's got the layer switching like the Monopoly had that. So you can actually you've got those 4 layers which are made up of 4 oscillators, and you can switch through them as you press each key. So it goes to the next one, to the next one, to the next one. So one can be a sawtooth brass sound, and the next one could be a very complex digital sound, and as you're playing these keys, it's switching them real time. So it's really interesting, and there's a really nice editor as well. They've done a good job with the editor. That it's a full GUI Windows Mac editor where you can see all the parameters on the screen at once. So yeah, it's very nice. So I'm just enjoying learning that one, and we're definitely going to do some sound packs for that. I've got a long request of people saying, when you make a Genesis set, and so I said, well, make a Prophet 5 set. So I've got all these ideas, just need the time now to program it. But it is really intuitive to program. It's extremely complex when you look at it like that, but actually when you see it on the screen, you can break it into chunks, and it's almost a bit like programming. It's modular. You can save little bits of it. So maybe you like the oscillator setup, so you save that, and then on the next sound you think, oh, I'll just reuse what I've done. So you can reuse that bit and add it to another bit, and you can build layers and build these blocks. And so it's a bit like using sort of functions. You can create these kind of functions and join them all together. So it's really nice. Well, yeah, that's been good. So that's gonna keep me going over Christmas. I think definitely trying to learn that. And one of the most popular videos that I've done for a while as well, just the initial sort of first impressions. I didn't want to do a sort of full review on it. I know some people dive in and do full reviews, but you can't do a full review on something like that. You've got to spend time with it, and so that's what I'm going to do. And I think, of course, that's before I got that as well. I've had I've done loads of sound packs, and yeah, they've been really popular. And so I think that's been really enjoyed doing them this year. I have done like Genesis set and Pink Floyd set and vocal sets, and I've got some premium ones which I'm selling on the website now as well. So I've had some really nice feedback on those. So yeah, it's been quite interesting doing those sound designs, setting sort of an audio challenge and then recreating them. But it's not unlike doing a dev program. You've got an idea in mind. You've got the tools to do it, and then you've just got to work your way around it and come up with it. And I've done a lot of some new sounds as well. So I've really enjoyed doing that. So I've also my concept album is nearly done as well for next year, so I can talk about that in the year. But I finally got a concept album that's space related as well. So hopefully,
cool. I'm looking forward to that. Really looking forward to that.
Maybe we get Richard Speed talk about it as well. So just fine with that. Well, it's been it's been good. Doing that program. I've really enjoyed doing that. So we've had a lot of feedback on the channel. And that's led to a lot of guests as well for this year we've had and for next year as well. So yeah, I've really enjoyed doing that, because I think the other thing on the Windows Insider stuff, as we've mentioned a few times, it's been interesting as ever, but there's not been a huge amount. I've got my I don't know if I showed you this one. This is the Surface Laptop 6 for business. Really nice device actually. I've been using this a lot. That's the one with the Windows Copilot or the Copilot key on there as well, which they've kind of moved Copilot to a web app, haven't they now? So it's kind of less useful than it used to be. But actually, this is really nice. But this is actually running on the dev channel, and it's so stable now that it doesn't really cause me any issues. Do you remember when back in the early days, to have anything running on one of the Insider programs would be, that you're actually working on would be, a nightmare, because you'd have to, you're gonna have to reset it somewhere. But this is running on the dev channel, and I never have any issues with it. It just works as good as this machine, which is running on release preview. Yeah, it's so the kind of that interest of the Windows Insider stuff. It's still lots going on, but we're not getting the sort of the bleeding edge Windows development anymore. It's more about the extra things, the Copilot and the AI in the image processors and that kind of thing, isn't it? It's not as exciting with, oh look, there's a build outlet. What we're going to get with it.
Yeah, it's very true. It's not like it was a few years back where we were on the edge of the seats every time something dropped, every time the red button was pressed.
Yeah.
It's not. It's it's definitely not.
Yeah, and I was hoping that I would get the new recall feature, but it hasn't turned up on yet. I thought because recall's now available, isn't it? If you've got one of the Snapdragon machines, but they did say it was available to more devices. If that we go, that was on the December 6th. Microsoft said if you're on the dev channel, they were rolling out the Copilot Plus experience to more devices for Intel and AMD powered Copilot Plus PCs, which I thought the Surface Laptop 6 for Business was a Copilot Plus, but I'm not 100% sure now. So I need to see if there's a way of forcing it in. So if you've got one of the Snapdragon, I know it's definitely available. And I think it's also on the latest Intel Surfaces as well. But the Copilot, the one for business, I don't think they've rolled it out onto yet. So I've put it on the dev channel, so it's on the right channel, and it's got the right build, but it's just not being offered. But I would like to try that recall because it does look interesting. I know they've had a lot of people concerned about the security elements of it, and it's effectively snapshotting real time, isn't it? What you're working on, and then you can play that snapshot back. I know it takes quite a bit of disk space as well. That'd be something that might be an issue for some people, and people worry about security. And I think that's why it doesn't work if you've got one of the enterprise builds and things like that. So I just wondered whether it was blocked on the Surface Laptop 6 for business, whereas if you had one of the consumer ones, you would get it potentially. But I would like to try Recall because it looks interesting. And also some of the other stuff that's in, like the paint updates and the photo. The updates in photos I've not really used. So, but yeah, I want to try that recall, but I don't think it's available yet. So if someone knows, maybe I'm gonna have to get onto one of our fellow MVPs. We were on this podcast a few weeks ago and find out. But I think Microsoft have made it a little bit confusing with the difference between Copilot Plus PCs and Copilot AI PCs. I know it was Rob on the show, didn't he? Explained to what the difference is, and one's for Intel and one's for Snapdragon. But it just seems a bit confusing, the whole what's in there, what's in a Copilot PC, what's a Copilot Plus, what's a Copilot, what's a Copilot AI PC. But have you noticed Microsoft doing a lot of advertising now for the Copilot AI computers? I think why do you need one, that kind of thing. Or it's not for everybody. I've seen some adverts on that, but it does seem all a little bit confusing. And I wonder whether we'll get a simpler message for all the AI stuff at some point next year, whether that's something Microsoft need to work on. But I said the actual device, the Surface, is really nice and quick. But overall, my aside from my Synths, my tech purchase has been this Dell machine that I'm using for the desktop, which I'm not on now, but this is my main music machine. That's made a big difference to my workflow because I can run multiple instruments at the same time. And video editing, and you'll know from doing video editing is always hard work, isn't it? Because of the big file sizes. And this machine sort of makes it nice and easy to do that, because you get some of those 4K video files, and it takes a lot of processing, doesn't it, just to render them, or even just when you're using the editing suite, when you've got all them large files open, it can be quite complicated. So my Dell PC has been really, aside from the Synth, the Dell PC has probably been the most useful thing that I've got this year. But hopefully I won't have to invest in another one for some time. It'll last me a while.
You said that last time.
Yeah, I tried. Yeah, I had my other music PC for about 4 or 5 years. So I think
okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Laptops are a bit, they come and go a bit sooner. But I think if they produce, if there's a Snapdragon powered Surface Go, must admit I'd be very tempted on that. I still use my Surface Go for meetings, and I think that'd be nice. Yeah, one of the Snapdragon Surface Pros would be nice as well, but I just can't justify it just for that. Although, as we talked about with Pete Brown on the show a few weeks ago, the things that the music production stuff is, and content creation is all coming as well. So, that's something we can look forward to for next year, isn't it? That all that MIDI 2.0 stuff, all the new MIDI stacks coming into Windows. Yeah, that's one reason why that's on the dev channel is as soon as the bits are available to play with, I want to get cracking with those.
That was really exciting, that conversation. I'm really looking if we had it.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to trying some of those in the new year. And of course, when we get to the new year, we'll do our first show next year. We'll do our predictions, and I'll have a listen to what we predicted last year. I'm sure we predicted Windows. I said that hopefully there'll be a Windows 12, but that's not the case, is it? And there doesn't seem to be anything on the cards for that, does it, at the moment? I think that Windows 11 is going to stick around for some time, even if we get more and more AI including in it. But yeah, that's something we can talk about next time when we come back, and we'll talk about our predictions for for the year after 2025. Which, and I said this year has actually flown by, though, hasn't it? We've yeah, it seemed to be 2 minutes since we were planning stuff for this year, and yeah, we're already out there. Oh, I should also mention as well the interesting thing. I did go to Blenheim Palace last week and saw their Christmas light show. So talking about projectors, they have the whole of the palace lit up with animation on there. It looked absolutely amazing. So they've certainly done a good job with that. But inside it's really, really good. They've done an amazing job. There's animatronics and what looks like, pools of water with a crocodile swimming in it, and they've got sky. It looks like a sky, but it's not. It's, they've got all that kind of stuff, like projections and things like that in there. So amazing light. I was trying to look at the technology as we were walking around, but it's all very well hidden as well. So, but yeah, I was quite impressed with that. So some of these Christmas lights displays now that you get at, these stately homes or gardens, they've all got them now, haven't they? These big Christmas light displays, but they are pretty impressive now. Oh, I did go to remember we talked to my mate Dave last year with his Christmas lights?
Yes,
indeed,
so
I went over the weekend to his presentation this year, where he said he loved more songs to it. But one thing he did do on the lights this year is he added a new part on his garage door, which I think he said was 700 separate LEDs, and I think there was 12 strips of 700 LEDs. So effectively, it was a monitor.
Oh,
so
hi.
you imagine the whole garage door, because it could render so it'd be 700 by, I think he said 700 by 7 or something like that. So it's almost, but anyway, he could turn it into he could play AVIs through it and video clips. So he had one of the songs synced up to Queen and We Are the Champions, and on the garage door was the Wembley, performance of it. So it actually worked really well. So he's added a lot of lights to that, but that's all controlled by that same system he talked about last year as well. He did get the presence sensor as well. So he's got the presence sensor. He said he didn't have time to hook it up this year, but he has got one now. So it will detect when somebody walks past, and he can then use that as a trigger to do whatever he wants. He also added a thing you could scan a QR code and select one of the songs from the jukebox as well, and it would play. Yeah, so really, really good display of that. So and look, fortunately the weather wasn't quite as bad as last year when we stood outside. So that was quite interesting. So yeah, a good display, a nice festive display from Dave. But yeah, check that if anybody's interested in that. Check out Dave Robertson from this time last year. Actually, we talked about that on the show.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
So I think that was everything for our catch up for this week. We're going to take our 2-week break then, and then we'll be back in the new year. And we'll be talking about, we'll do our predictions for the new year, and then we've got a whole set of guests. And if any listeners have got suggestions for guests and anything, just let me know, ian@thisislife.com. We can make sure we include those, and we've got some interesting stuff coming up in the new year.
Yeah, hopefully we might have some Christmas presents to talk about as well.
Oh yeah, that'd be good. There won't be any tech presents from either this year. I think people avoid that now because there's enough in here already. I had to decommission one of my keyboards, so one of the keyboards is not active. So I think I might have to consider, if I'm not using it, then perhaps I should have to sell it. But it's like a 2006 Korg Radius, and I like keeping these things around. But then I suppose it's not plugged in, so I can't maybe it's time.
You're gonna need a bigger room. So.
Yeah, I want to tell one of my lads to when they move out, I'll take them. But I don't think I'll get away with that. Anyway, it was brilliant catching up, and you and all the listeners have a great Christmas and New Year, and we'll be back bright, refreshed for 2025 with our predictions for the forthcoming year.
You too. Have a great one. Speak to you soon.
See you.